Good morning. I'm back. Okay, so let's jump right in. Episode 3, Fixing My Life. And what I want to talk about today, since it's been 2 weeks, is how to start tackling problems. Right. So if I'm looking at my life as a series of things that aren't getting done or aren't getting accomplished, I should be able to ask a question about each of those areas of life. And then if the question is like the problem, the answer would be the solution. So to start, I realized I get overwhelmed. I have all these things that I'm like, oh, my health isn't right, my fitness isn't right. I don't have a budget for finances. I'm for right now dog food. Like, why are these things happening, right? So I have to kind of compartmentalize each section and ask the question, how do I do this? So that's what I'm going to do today. So my hour started, and you're here with me to get started on that hour, and then I'm going to finish it by myself. But I got this fun notebook. I've actually had it for a little while. Isn't it cute? Somebody made it out of, I don't know, it's cardboard. So it's like, I have no idea what it is. Actually, I thought it was like a magazine thing, but I don't think it is. But anyway, I got it in Renton at this really cool shop. So I'm going to use it. It's never been used. And Lindsay Kanopka, my friend from college, she was up visiting me this weekend, and she suggested that I put the questions in here and then like a question per page. I don't know if that's going to work, but it's worth a shot. And then, start filling in solutions or ideas as I come to it, right? Maybe that'll work. I don't know, but I'm going to start with the questions. And a couple of them, I have to start thinking in questions. So a couple of them that came to me was, how do I get control of my food every week, right? So I've thought about. So basically, forget what I thought about. Starting from the basics. Here's the question: How do I get better control of my food? Okay, so the work that I need to do is to actually think about what I know I need to be eating, how often, and look at meal plans for the week. And from meal plans, I can look at like, what do I eat that works? What do I want to stop eating? Bring out the things that are working. Write those down. Take note of the quick snacks that are easy for me to take to school. Salami, cheese, eggs, boiled eggs, right? Make a list of the foods that I want to eat during the week. And then from that, I can create a grocery list. Buy these things, right? So I get that, we want variety and all that, but I'm going to try to keep it basic for the next couple weeks. I'm going to start this plan. I'm going to set Sundays as my food prep day, okay? So my question is, how do I manage my food? How do I manage my food? Okay. How do I manage my food? All right. Solutions are identify what I should eat, create a list of acceptable foods, make a grocery list, and make a food prep plan. Okay. Those are my solutions. So basically, I'm going to figure those things out. That's that's the work that I'm gonna do after I get off the video here. That's what my 2 hours that I've set aside for every week are for, right? So these videos are for me to organize my thoughts, share them, and have you guys have that accountability for me, and start doing the work. I think a lot of us don't realize that there's work involved in creating solutions, or we don't want to work. We don't want to do the work. We want to find an easier way to just like ad-lib our life, right? Ad-libbing my life. This is so funny because it's obviously not a very successful plan for your life, but it can work for a lot of people. And I've been realizing that I've been ad-libbing my life forever. I had lunch with Molly, my childhood friend, yesterday, and we had a really good conversation. We found a burger place and went and sat down and talked. And I told her, I was like, you've known me since I was 5 years old. If anybody gets this about me, it's you. And that is that I've lived my life just good enough. And if that doesn't make sense to you, let me explain. I've been getting by looking like I'm good at stuff since I was a kid. I was good enough at drawing that everybody called me a good artist. And I was like, yeah, thanks. And then I was good enough at I don't know, soap carving, building things, speaking Spanish. This is funny, okay? I was so good enough at speaking Spanish that I took like a couple quarters in college, and my teachers would tell me, "Oh my gosh, your accent is so awesome! Like you've really got it. You've really, you could really do well in Spanish if you kept going, right?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, cool, thanks." But I didn't feel confident in my abilities to learn Spanish. So when I went to college and I was in a school that required 3 semesters of Spanish, I actually bailed and switched colleges because I got the 2 done, but was so terrified that I would have to put a lot more work in, right, to get to survive the 3rd quarter with a good grade, that I bailed. And I was like, how about I just go to this other school that only requires 2 semesters of foreign language, and then I will be okay, right? And this is like not the most proud moment that I'm sharing with you, right? But I basically was afraid of failing, and I switched schools because of it. So I was talking specifically with Molly at lunch, and we were identifying this concept that that anytime you do a project or do something, you can get the bulk of the work done, right? Say you want to like remodel your bathroom, right? You can make a huge amount of progress just in like 80%. Like 80% of the work that you do on that project is like the big stuff, right? The big amount of work, and it's easy, right? And then there's this like 10% of finishing the project, where you have to like go in and like caulk the seams in the bathroom and like fine tune some like paint jobs, or like fit a little piece of wood in that got busted, and like nail the borders on, whatever it is, right? It's like hard, and it takes a lot of equipment, and it's like a little time consuming. It's like that's the 10% of any project to finish it well that takes the most work. And it's so hard to do that, right? Because we spend all this like energy doing this 80%, and we get this great big effect out of it, right? We put this much work in, we get 80% of the work done, and it's just beautiful. And it's like, who wants to do a tiny little bit, right? Like, I go to school and I did foreign language and I was really good at it, and I got like 80% of the way there, and I was like, I'm almost done. Like, if you just didn't look at the corners, you could think that I was really good at Spanish, I don't need to like go and take that third semester because that's going to be really hard and I'm going to have to really learn it. Right? So I forget what Molly called it. She was reading this book, and it was about this concept that when we live our lives, it was like fixed mindset or something. I don't know if that sounds familiar, but you're in this concept of only living within boundaries that are comfortable, right? Just like how you get 80% of the work done and you get a big reward from it. It feels really good, but doing that 10% or pushing yourself outside of that fixed mindset is so hard, right? That the work that it's gonna take is so discouraging that we stay within our fixed mindset. That we just this is good enough. I don't need to do that 10% hard work because I don't really see the reward from it, right? And that's how I look at my life. I look at these things and I go, you know what? I started CrossFit and I was like so good in the beginning. I'm like, wow, I came from nothing and all of a sudden I can do a handstand and I got a pull up and I was like, wow, I did all this stuff and it only took me this much time, maybe a year, right, to get there. And then I did another year and I didn't make the same gains, right? I maybe got a little bit stronger in some areas or not in others. And I was like, this is hard. Why am I not, going as fast and accomplishing as much? And that's when I start to get frustrated and I'm like, okay, let me go find something else that I can be just good enough to get that reward, right? Well, all I was doing is moving from my 80% to my 80% to my 80%. I'm never finishing. I'm never fully accomplishing one thing. Right? I started my Airbnb business and I was just like good at it and I got people in and I was a good host and people loved being here. And at some point I thought to myself, I have no idea how much money I'm making. I have no idea how much money I'm spending. But it doesn't matter because it's all working out in the wash and that would take a lot of time and a lot of energy to sit down and try and like fine tune those details, right? That's like the 10%. But everything's good enough. It's good enough. It's working and I've got the biggest impression and impact for the work and so I'm happy, okay? But I'm spending too much money and it's not consistent and I have no clue how much every guest costs me. Why don't I know that? Because I haven't done the work. Because that's the 10%. That's the 10% I've been avoiding all my life. Don't want to do the work. So I could look at all these areas and go, how do you eat? How do you work out? Right? And then you go, what's the 10%? What is that like that portion that it really takes to finish the job that I'm avoiding? Because it's going to take like 50% of the work to do the 10% of the job. Does that suck? Right? You do 50% of your work, you get 80% of the job done, and then the 10% is going to take 50% more time. Who wants to do that? Right? You have to believe that at the end of that 10% is even greater reward. But how do you believe that unless you can get through it? You're going to have to get through it, and you're going to have to get through it over and over and over again in order to convince yourself that it's worth it. God, that's what I need to do. That's what this is all about. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do the 10% right now of work. And believe, that's my motivator, right? That it's worth it. So this doesn't have to be a long video. I honestly just wanted to check in, and I wanted to tell you guys what I'm working on, and this is my week for identifying questions, and I've got a lot of questions, right? And the first thing is not to get overwhelmed, so I'm just writing them down in my little book here. This is going to be my book for problem solving, right? This is my overall book for thoughts, so I just put my thoughts in there. I've got how do I clean my house, right? And there's lots of really fun ones out there. There's like, on Mondays you did this, on Tuesdays you do that, on Wednesdays you do this, clean the bathrooms, whatever, right? The whole thing is it takes that work, right? We all know how to do it. There's the information's all over the internet. So here's the question: how do I clean my house? And I'm gonna start writing down a solution to that. But more questions: how to organize my drawers, right? How to stay organized? How do I manage my finances, right? I should have a budget. I do this for a living for other people. I guess that's why people who clean houses, their houses are dirty, and people who mow lawns, their lawns are mowed, whatever, right? I'm gonna change that. So that's gonna be by putting it as a question on my list. It puts it in my mind so that I can start working towards a solution. So for the next rest of this hour and my next hour tomorrow, I'm going to be working on the solution. That's what this is about. So just getting the questions down doesn't mean I have to start doing it all now, right? It actually gives me a little bit of a relief because I get to calm down and be patient and learn patience, right? The question, the problem, right? It's in my book. So I don't have to worry about it right now. When I sit down and finish my hour of problem solving, it's going to be on how do I manage my food, because that's the one I'm starting with. My other questions will follow, and I will get to them, right? But first, solution first. Start with the question, write down those questions, and start solving the problems. So that's what I'm working on. Thanks for being there and helping me be accountable. I love you guys, and I will see